Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Liquorware. I'm going to do a video similar to ones that I've done fairly recently. I'm going to mix a very difficult dough. It's a low hydration dough, 50% hydration. And I've done these videos with something called a Joy Deem mixer. It's a cheap mixer. It did really well. And then I've also done a video with an Avantco room and an expensive home Kitchenaid mixer. And if you're interested, you can watch those videos separately. This time I'm using a true commercial 10 quart and we'll compare power and how quickly it develops the gluten. And then this beautiful thing here I found on Facebook Marketplace. This is an old Kitchenaid mixer when they were still made by Hobart. It's a K5A, and it's not a huge mixer. It's not as big as the semi-commercial one I did the video on before. It's a 5 quart, but we'll see how well it does. The dough will be the same in both cases. I'll be using 500 grams of flour and 250 grams of water, and we'll look at the power and how long it takes to develop the gluten. So here we go. So I'm going to turn it on, and then we'll just look at the power that the mixers are using when they're not actually mixing any dough. So let's get that on the oscilloscope. And we can see from the oscilloscope that the little Kitchenaid is just under 150 watts, about 133 watts it looks like. The commercial mixer, which is from a company called Avantco, is right at about 200 watts. And this is when they're not actually mixing any dough. Let's get some flour in here. We'll put in 500 grams of flour in each. .500 grams of flour and 250 grams of water. All right, so we've got 500 grams of flour. I spilled a little bit here. 500 grams of flour in each and 250 grams of water. So here we go. Let's take a look from above and see what's going on. Well, the little Kitchenaid is already starting to bring the dough together. The big Avantco, it's getting the dough together. The dough hook on the Avantco is not super close to the bottom of the bowl, and this is really a very small batch for this bowl size, but we'll see if it can get it together. Let's take a look at the power. Well, interestingly, the Kitchenaid is actually putting out a lot more power right now than the Avantco. Let's just look at one channel here. All right, so the Kitchenaid is 350 watts. The Kitchenaid is putting a lot of power into that dough, which means it's going to develop that gluten very quickly. Let's see how it does. The Avantco is up to about upper 200s, and we said it was 200 when there was nothing in it. It's starting to bring that dough ball together, but it's not putting nearly as much energy into the dough as the Kitchenaid is struggling. This old Kitchenaid is having a hard time. That dough is fighting it pretty hard. Now we'll see what happens. The old Kitchenaid is really having a hard time. The Avantco, it doesn't even know it's doing anything, and I guess that's what you would expect. The power on the Kitchenaid is peaking over 450 watts. Well, this is the difference between a real commercial mixer and something that's made for the home. The way that these commercial mixers control speed is using a gearbox. So if I want to go, right now it's on the kneading setting, it's in the lowest gear. If I wanted to go to a higher gear, either to beat some batter or even to whisk something, I would change the gear, but the motor is running at the same speed regardless of what gear you're in. The Kitchenaid doesn't work like that, and in fact, no home mixers have gearboxes like that I know of. What you do is you actually slow or speed up the motor itself. It's only got one gear, and so this dough, like I said, is very difficult to mix for most mixers, and this all right, so the old Kitchenaid can't handle this super low hydration dough, and I don't want to damage it, so I'm going to turn it off at this point. It's not able to handle it's not able to handle this very difficult dough. It did bring the dough ball together. It did a good job of putting energy into it, but it's too much. This is too difficult a dough for this old mixer to mix, and it's pretty warm right now. So good try, old mixer. You're beautiful, but you can't mix this dough. All right, so let's just see how the Avantco does then. It doesn't even know it's doing anything. Let's see how much power it's putting out now. The power on the Avantco is going up. That's what it's supposed to do. As the dough ball comes together and it starts putting more energy into the dough, power will go up until the gluten starts developing, and then it'll start to taper off just a little bit. So if we keep watching this on the oscilloscope, we should be able to see when the gluten starts to develop. So I'm going to turn it off for just a second to feel what that dough ball feels like. Okay, so the dough is getting warm, which means the mixer is putting a lot of energy into the dough. Let's turn it back on, but it's not developed yet. Sorry, sorry, old girl. Yeah, that was too much. It's pretty hot right here. We've been running for a little less than 10 minutes. And the Avantco is just doing what it does, which you would expect. I'll give you a view of the dough ball in the Avantco. It's a little hard to see all the way down into the bowl, but you should be able to see the dough ball is just getting a lot of work. That dough hook is just kneading the heck out of the ball. The commercial mixer doesn't even really feel like it's changing speed as it kneads the dough. And like I said earlier, this is 750 grams of dough. It's not a very big load for this mixer. This is obviously not a huge commercial mixer. It's only a 10 quart, but this is still a small batch for a mixer with this much power. Interestingly enough, the rating on this mixer is 600 watts, which is roughly the same rating that the Avantco Room and the big Kitchenaid mixer have. But like I said, because they control their speed differently, this uses a gearbox, so the motor is always running at full speed, and both the Avantco Room and the big Kitchenaid, you have to slow the motor down. You can't get all that power into the dough. This thing can just do what it needs to do. So let's take a look at the oscilloscope, it almost looks like the power is dropping a little bit. Well, it may be a little too soon to know. Been running for about 12 minutes. Let's see what the temperature of that dough is. Yeah, 76. So it's getting warmer. Let's feel that dough ball and see whether we're getting any gluten development yet. Oh yes, that dough is starting to get smooth. Oh my goodness. That's only been about 14 minutes. We're starting to actually get gluten development. It's not quite there. But of the mixers that we've tested so far in these videos, this one, as you would expect, is having the easiest time getting the gluten developed. The Joy Deem did eventually, if I remember correctly, it was close to an hour though before it got the gluten developed. 15 minutes or so, and we're starting to get gluten development. This is a nice hand warmer still. There's one other mixer that I'm going to do a video on this difficult dough. I don't have one yet. I'm going to have to order it. It's from the company Uni. I don't know if that's the right way to say that, but it's the company that makes pizza ovens. They have come out with a consumer version of something called a spiral mixer. And I'm very curious how well it mixes dough. But that'll be in the next video. So the Avantco is really working the dough the way you would expect it to. No hesitation whatsoever. The ball is not getting stuck. The hook is constantly on every rotation. The hook is really diving into the dough ball and putting energy in, developing that gluten. This mixer came out of a local bakery that was upgrading their equipment, but it's got some sloppiness in it. It's obviously been worked hard. All right, we are definitely starting to see less power go into the dough ball, which should mean that the gluten is getting developed. So let's take a look. Let's see. Oh, would you look at that? It's close. Not quite ready, but close. And that's after a little less than 20 minutes. I know most people at home wouldn't want to deal with something this big. I mean, just moving this thing around is a bit of a pain. It weighs over 100 pounds. But it'd be cool to have at home, right? And you can get a used one like this for less than the price of the most expensive Kitchenaid. Now, interesting. Like I said, when we started this is not a very big load of dough for a mixer of this size. And what's happening, the dough ball is hanging up on the dough hook right now, which is why when we look at the mixer power, it's very low. It's not working the dough. It's right at the bottom of the hook. Let me see if I can get that off. You might be able to see that from the overhead camera, but the dough ball isn't getting worked right now. If you're mixing at home, regardless of what kind of mixer you're using, if you see something like this, then if the dough ball isn't getting worked, if it isn't getting kneaded by the hook, then the mixer isn't putting energy into the dough. And if it's not putting energy into the dough, it won't develop the gluten. As we've discussed in other videos, there is some gluten development just because of the time. So you can just set a ball of dough on the counter and you'll get some gluten development, but the mixer isn't doing that. So right now the mixer isn't putting really any substantial energy into this dough. So I'm gonna pull the dough ball off and see if we can get it separate and kneading it again. All right, it's working it again. Let's see if the power shows that. Yeah, okay, there you go. So now you can see the power is higher again, which means that the mixer is putting energy into the dough. These spikes, by the way, are what happens when I turn the mixer on. It's called surge current. This is a high current that goes into the motor right when it starts up. But this is the energy that's going into the dough as the mixer works. So this period down here, you can see the energy was very low going into the dough. This is where the ball was hung up on the dough hook. But now it's mixing it again, kneading it. As you can see, this is going to mix this dough really well, and it's going to develop the gluten. But, and so I don't think there's much benefit to just letting it work until it develops the gluten. But let's double the load. So it's going to go from 750 grams to 1,500 grams, and let's see how this mixer does. Seems to be doing just fine. Let's take a look at the power. Oh, yep. It's putting a lot more energy into this dough. All right, well, if you want a mixer that's really going to be able to mix difficult dough and not struggle, get yourself a true commercial mixer. Not really a fair comparison. This is a 50-year-old mixer. It's a beautiful classic mixer, and it would do fantastically well for normal batters and things like that. And you could probably do bread dough in it, but not something that is this difficult to mix. So if you had a higher hydration bread dough, it would be fine. But like I said, this is a 50%, very hard to mix, and I picked this specifically to test these mixers. Good try. The Avantco, it's a commercial mixer. It's got gearbox. The motor runs at a full speed. So the Avantco did fine at a heavier load. Even feeling it right now, it's a little bit warm, but it's definitely not hot. And the motor never felt like it or sounded like it was struggling in any way. Hey, if you need a really good mixer, get one of these commercials and you can get it used. Thank you very much. I hope everybody has a fabulous rest of your day. Goodbye.